Chapter 19. Observation and Interviewing. Introduction. This chapter continues to present the major forms of qualitative research, namely observational studies and ethnography. While they are similar in some aspects, they have some differences that could warrant a separate discussion. Observational studies use various techniques of direct observation as the means of data collection. Ethnographers are likely to use observation, interviewing, and other means of data collection, including the means of collecting informally obtained information, to provide a complete picture of complex situations or phenomena. Observation. There are 4 roles that an observer can play in a qualitative research study, ranging from complete participant to participant as observer, to observer as participant, to complete observer. The degree of involvement of the observer in the observed situation diminishes accordingly for each of these roles. A. Participant observation. In participant observation studies, the researcher actually participates as an active member of the group in the situation or setting he or she is observing. B. Non-participant observation. In non-participant observation studies, the researcher does not participate in an activity or situation but observes from the sidelines. C. Naturalistic observation. The most common forms of non-participant observation studies include naturalistic observation and simulations. D. Simulations. A simulation is an artificially created situation in which subjects are asked to act out certain roles. E. Observer effect. The term observer effect refers to either the effect the presence of an observer can have on the behavior of the subjects or observer bias in the data reported. The use of audio and video recordings is especially helpful in guarding against this effect. For this reason, many researchers argue that the participants in a study should not be informed of the study's purpose until after the data have been collected. F. Observer bias. Observer bias refers to the possibility that certain characteristics or ideas of observers may affect what they observe. G. Coding observational data. A coding scheme is a set of categories an observer uses to record a person's or group's behaviors. Even with a fixed coding scheme in mind, an observer must still choose what to observe. A major problem in all observational research is that much that goes on may be missed. H. The use of technology. To overcome several obstacles, researchers may use recording devices to document their observations. They may be replayed several times for continued study and analysis. 2. Interviewing. The purpose of interviewing people is to find out what is on their minds, what they think or how they feel about something. A. Types of interviews. Interviews may be structured, semi-structured, informal, or retrospective. B. Key actor interviews. Key actors are people in any group who are more informed about the culture and history of the group and who also are more articulate than others. C. Types of interview questions. The 6 types of questions asked by interviewers are background, or demographic, questions, knowledge questions, experience, or behavior, questions, opinion, or values, questions, feelings questions, and sensory questions. D. Interviewing behavior. Respect for the individual being interviewed is a paramount expectation in any proper interview. E. Focus group interviews. A focus group interview is an interview with a small, fairly homogeneous group of people who respond to a series of questions asked by the interviewer. F. Recording interview data. Some method for recording an interviewee's words exactly is required. A recording device, therefore, is often considered an indispensable part of any qualitative researcher's equipment. G. Ethics in interviewing, the necessity for informed consent. During such interviews, a measure of intimacy can develop between interviewers and participants that can lead participants to share information about events in their lives that, if misused, could leave them very vulnerable. Participants deserve to be protected from such vulnerability. Interviewers also need to be protected against any misunderstanding on the part of participants as to the nature and purpose of the interview itself. It is ethically desirable in this instance for interviewers to require participants to sign an informed consent form. H. Data collection and analysis in qualitative research. Although qualitative research can, and sometimes does, make use of structured instruments such as those described in Chapter 7, the preference is for less structured, open-ended data collection with structuring taking place later through content analysis or emergent themes, Chapter 20, as the means of data analysis. While other descriptive statistics are often relevant, the most commonly used is reporting of frequencies. 3. Validity and reliability in qualitative research. An important check on the validity and reliability of the researcher's interpretations in qualitative research is to compare one informant's description of something with another informant's description of the same thing. Another, although more difficult, check on reliability/validity is to compare information on the same topic with different information triangulation. Efforts to ensure reliability and validity include use of proper vocabulary, recording questions used as well as personal reactions, describing content, and documenting sources. 4. An example of qualitative research. The chapter presents a published example of an observational qualitative study, followed by a critique of its strengths and weaknesses in this section. V. Analysis of the study. A. Purpose/justification. The purpose of the study is found on page 417. The research goal is to discover if this combination has a beneficial effect on selected youths and their problem behaviors. B. Definitions. Definitions are not explicit but are made reasonably clear through description of major terms, walk and talk, beneficial effect, and problem behaviors. C. Prior research. The author provides extensive references in support of both rationale for the study and the intervention procedures. D. Hypotheses. No hypotheses are explicitly stated. E. Sample. The sample is clearly described as 8 students, aged 9 to 13 chosen from one school district as having problem behaviors. F. Instrumentation. Instrumentation included listing of strengths and weaknesses as well as self-drawings by students and interviews by the researcher, all done pre- and post-intervention. G. Procedures/internal validity. The author recognizes the problem of internal validity in discussing Youth D with the statement, "I think his participation in the intervention was one of many support effects that helped him improve." H. Data analysis. Statistical analysis is not appropriate for this study. As is usual in studies of this type, the results from various instruments are described, in this case for individual students. I. Result/interpretation. The author recognizes the possibilities for bias and subjectivity impacting her reporting and interpreting results. Researchers cannot change their interpretation of data after the fact, at least not without more justification. I. Conclusion. This study illustrates both the richness of such research and the difficulty of making firm conclusions. It also illustrates a contrast in reporting styles.